Hi, it's Trisha from Braveheart. In this video, I want to talk about two things which pertain to running good meetings. They're slightly left of centre topics to running good meetings, but they're very relevant and they are two things that I come up against over and over again in my work with clients. The first thing is what I call the email versus running efficient meetings conundrum. So, one of the things that I hear continuously from my clients in organizations is the tyranny of email and how they struggle to keep on top of their email and how challenging email management is and how difficult it is to know which emails matter and which emails to read and which emails to prioritize and where to find the time to take the time to think about how to respond well to emails, because that's another aspect of emails which I also find very challenging and see as a challenge to creating a thinking environment, which is that we often write emails without thinking about tone, and so the tone that gets received by the person at the other end is often misunderstood, misinterpreted, and can cause additional emails flying backwards and forwards just to try and sort out what we really meant in the first email because we didn't think about the tone of the writing that we were using. So emails seem to be a bit of a monster for a lot of people in organizations. I started to think about the reason for that, and one of the things that I gathered from conversations with clients was that because of the number of emails that people receive, people aren't sure that their emails are being read, and they aren't sure that the information in the emails is being really absorbed and understood or actioned. There's so many emails, and in order to cover all bases and in order to make sure that everyone knows that we said what we said in the email, we copy everyone. And so people are often receiving emails that are not actually for them and that they don't actually even really understand why they're being copied on it. And this adds to the number of emails in the inbox, which adds to the length of time that it takes to get through them. And so what people have started to do is they've started to schedule meetings, which are actually to share the information which they ought to be able to share in emails, but they don't trust that the emails are being read anymore. So they schedule a meeting. So the meeting isn't actually to find out what people think. It's actually a backup plan just in case the email isn't being read, so that I'm also covering my bases, being able to say, well, I had everybody round the table in a meeting and I told them in the meeting. I told them in the email and then I got them into a meeting and then I told them in the meeting. So meetings, in many instances, have stopped becoming places where we actually do what meetings are designed to do, which is to get together to think about things. And instead they've become, as I said earlier, a backup plan, just in case the email doesn't get read. It also means that people are going from meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting. And in their meetings, they're trying, either surreptitiously or in many cases, I'm told, quite blatantly, to catch up on all their emails whilst they're in the meeting. Meetings like this are not a thinking environment. They're not a place where people are really putting their heads together. They're a place where people are sitting around the table in a meeting that hasn't been prepared well because the person who's running it has only pulled people together to share information that they ought to be able to share in an email, and they haven't had time to prepare for the meeting because they've been in back-to-back meetings scheduled by other people who are pulling them into those meetings because they don't trust that they're reading their emails. You see where I'm going with this. So I think if we really want to create meetings in which people's minds are being used, in which people feel honoured and valued and are glad that they were invited because They knew what it was that they were there to think about, because the person who called the meeting crafted the agenda ahead of time. And the way they crafted the agenda ahead of time was that they used the issues into questions exercise. And so the meeting agenda was sent out in the form of questions, which meant that as soon as I read the meeting agenda, I started to think about the stuff that was going to be wanted and needed from my mind when I got into the meeting. And when I got into the meeting, the person who runs the meeting makes sure that on a regular basis, he or she goes round the table and asks everyone what they think about those questions. And so I really start to experience that my thinking is wanted and valued and made space for and heard and listened to and taken into account. In order for us to get to those kinds of meetings, we're going to have to do something about email.